Attention New York City listeners, I'm excited to share 2 upcoming live This Is Taste tapings that I think you're going to like, taking place at Rizzoli Bookstore in Manhattan's Flatiron District. On April 8th, I will be joined by Barbara Costello, better known through her Brunch with Babs social accounts. We will be talking about her brand new cookbook, Cooking with Babs. And on May 5th, I will be joined by photographer and journalist Craig Maude for a reading and conversation about his debut memoir, Things Become Other Things. I love this book so much and welcome you all in to hear his story about walking around Japan and so much more. Tickets are available at the Rizzoli website, rizzolibookstore.com. I hope to see you there.
Food was always very prevalent in my household, and it was always very prevalent for me because it's the thing I gravitated towards, like as a baby. You know, my parents tell me I'd crawl out of my crib and go pull pots and pans out in the kitchen.
This is Taste. I'm your host, Matt Rothbard. How fun was it having Paul Carmichael into the studio? Paul is a chef of Kabawa and Bar Kabawa, which is part of the Momofuku universe and located in the former Ko space in New York City. Paul is a Momofuku vet, having served as chef at Mapesh and Siebo in Sydney, Australia. On this episode, we hear about Paul's career from WD-50 to his leadership positions working alongside David Chang. We hear about what makes a Momofuku restaurant special and hear about the Caribbean food history that flows through his menus. We also get some details about the opening of Kabawa, which is one of New York City's most hotly anticipated. Also on the show, Eliza has a great talk with Roger Kamholtz. Roger is a longtime contributor to Punch, and he's something of a cocktail world expert. And today in the show, he unpacks how he tapped into his knowledge to create Pour Together, a book of imaginative and delicious 2-ingredient cocktails. I hope you enjoy this episode.
Rolling.
Yeah, we're rolling. I'm just getting all the pronunciation so I don't botch it.
Rolling in the deep.
Oh, we're going to start there. Rolling in the deep. It's Paul Carmichael. What's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm great. Having a good time.
It's so great to have you in the studio. I've wanted to do this forever.
Yeah, I mean, back when I was at Mapesh, it was on the cards. It just never happened.
It never happened, and we'll start there. I mean, I absolutely loved what you were doing at Mapesh. It was incredible, and I think you really evolved that restaurant. It's close to where our office is, so we were there a bit for just work stuff. And tell me, I mean, what was that experience like? I know we're going to talk about Bar Kabawa and your history and your career. What was that like?
Mapesh was great. It was my first chef gig in New York City. Not my first chef gig ever, but my first chef gig in the city. I think it was a very important restaurant for me. And I still hold incredible relationships from people that work there.
I want to talk about the cuisine at Mapesh because I think you introduced dim sum carts. You sprinkled in Jamaican cuisine. It felt like it was always like sambar, like a lot of the Momofukus. You know, there's always going to be something special. There's always going to be a twist, and it was always going to be exciting. And you know, it's a very unique space.
Oh my God.
No windows.
Too unique.
I mean, I was going to say challenging, but I thought I didn't want to lead you. Challenging space. But you really made it work. And what was it like working with, David Chang, working with the team at Momofuku to create excitement in Midtown when, Midtown at that point, not really popping, really.
It was a fun journey. It was a difficult journey because we changed so much. I mean, you've dined there, especially for lunch. We changed the lunch menu a lot.
And I dined there mostly for lunch, and it was awesome.
And the experience changed a lot. So it was just trying to figure out a way, things that people wanted,
Yeah.
I think Mapesh had a weird start because it started off hot as this French Vietnamese place, and then it turned real quickly. So
Yeah, it was like kind of crickets, right? I mean,
Yeah.
no one wanted to go to, the 50s, which
so
is like understandable at the era that, people just weren't in Midtown
yeah,
looking
it
for
was
that.
so it was honestly, it was a very fun time, and I think everybody that was a part of that project believed in what we were doing and trying to achieve, and that made a huge difference. I think we had like a really good 3-year run there where
Yeah.
I think some magic was actually happening.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was terrific. So, but in 2015, you decide to leave America. You go to Australia, and you work at Momofuku,
Mm.
which was in the Star Casino.
Yep.
I got to have a meal there with Ben Greeno, and it was really remarkable. When you leave to go to Australia, I mean, that is a big change. What's that like to go down to Australia and run Momofuku down there?
It was a tough decision, but my dad truly helped me get over the edge.
Yeah.
I think for 2 reasons. Australia's been always on his bucket list. He's never gotten to go. And one, he's an old man and I was a young buck. And he was like, if you fail, you have so much time to recover. And that actually resonated with me. So I was just like, all right, let's do it. Let's
Yeah.
go.
So what's it like? What's your menu like? I never had a chance to try it, but I mean, this is a very different diner from American diners in a casino. It's, are you doing tasting mostly?
Yes. So at Sailboat, it was full tasting menu.
Yeah.
It was the one full space that I dived right into Caribbean, like I guess cuisine, food. And it was like full on. When I first got there, it wasn't so much because it was still kind of like what should I do with this space? This was Sailboat. It got all the accolades, big shoes to fill. But after we started like this tasting menu, I kind of was like in my head a lot, really cranky.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, a lot of emotions there. I bet.
yeah, and I started this like little bar menu because we had 5 seats at the bar. And I was like, okay, I need an outlet to just cook food that I want to cook and share food that I want to share. Because the tasting, like the concept, at least at that time, of a tasting menu for me was very restrictive. And I felt like I had to do a specific thing. But after doing things with the bar, people really resonated with things with the bar. The GM at the time there, her name's Kylie, we had a chat about it. And she literally said, why don't you just cook like this all the time? And I was just like, you know what? That I can. And that's how I guess Sable started to grow, because then I started to see the tasting menu as not just little teeny tiny things that are cute. It's just like, all right, I just want to feed people.
Yeah.
And I got 12 dishes or 15 dishes to do it. And it doesn't matter what they are, how they go, like our last course, it sometimes was just a big pork chop,
Yeah.
I always started with like something warm and like soupy.
What an extabari move to end with a big cut of meat. I love that.
But like in the tasting format.
Right. The tasting version.
Yeah. But it wasn't. It was just like literally it was like, all right, so we roll through the menu, you do the things. I never had like this I guess the structure was I always had to have some sort of rice because, it's the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And then we'd always finish with something fun. Like, depends on what it was. Yeah.
We're going to talk about Bar Kabawa and Kabawa. It's a 2-part restaurant. There's 2 different concepts in the space, and we're going to get into some details. Are some of those Seibo dishes going to appear on your menu that you're developing for the tasting at Kabawa?
I think there are going to be some iterations of the dishes. But when we closed the chapter of Seobo, it's closed. Seobo for me was like lightning in a bottle. It's time, it's place, it's people. I had an incredible staff there. I think it would be silly of me to be like, oh, I'm going to try and recreate this because I
lightning
just
in a
can't,
bottle. You said it.
So here with the 2 spaces, one bar featuring wine and daiquiris, more snacky things, and a lot of patties.
Yeah.
Like this mix of like fried and baked patties, mix of Jamaica and Haiti together, smashed up.
Oh, we're gonna go there, man. I had a great time.
And then the restaurant, it will be prefix. So choice of 3, you pick 3 things, you get 3 things.
Prefix and not tasting.
No tasting.
I'm so happy to hear that. No shade on tasting menus, but I think generally speaking, diners want a prefix.
Yeah,
perhaps.
I mean, for me, I just wanted to find a balance of like what this space can do and having freedom and also, giving people a choice. I think there's definitely going to be room for us to like explore and like take people through a journey. But I want the restaurant to be fun, and I want people to be able to come back multiple times and have a different experience.
Of course.
At Sailboat, it was like this thing. I had like this thing. It was just like any repeat customer gets a new menu,
Yeah.
and it was rough.
Because I'm sure there were some folks who were like regulars.
Yeah.
I mean, Trotter did that. That was a Trotter thing, right? Trotter would never repeat a menu for regulars.
It was rough.
Wow.
So, fun, but trying to give that to every person that comes in for number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5 takes a lot of work, and I don't want to put my team or myself in that situation.
Well, you have other jobs, and this leads to a wider question. It's about David Chang. Now, David Chang is still very much, and I'll just say, is the godhead of Momofuku.
Yes,
the guy does TV and a great podcast and does lots of other things, but there is no Momofuku without Dave. But Paul, you're running culinary for the group, and I guess what's your relationship working with David Chang on these new openings and other projects?
Well, the new projects are to come. That's TBD.
Okay, sure.
And however they roll out, we'll see. This project is I guess I don't want to call it a solo venture because there's so many people working on it. But between Dave and Marguerite, they've given me full creative control of the project, which has been nice and very generous of them.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to carve out a little space under the Momo umbrella and like do our thing. And that's really it. Because while under the umbrella, I want people to see this space as its own thing, And I love the company I work for, and I love David Chang and Marguerite.
Yeah.
Like very, very much. They've been in my lives for a long time. I've known Dave for 20 plus years at this point. And Marguerite nearly as long.
Yeah.
So it's been really kind of them to just let me create 2 spaces within the group.
They're great managers too, because they know your talents and they know your abilities and they know what you did at Mapesh and Sabo, and it's just you. I mean,
and they're great people,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we had Marguerite on about a year and a half ago. I love that conversation. I'm going to link to in the show notes. Dave, you're welcome to come on the show. I've asked many times, and I know you're busy, but let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do an episode. Yeah, you can do it remote even. I just want to ask you. Let's talk about the broader role that you have, because are you looking after Major Domo in LA, which I think I had a meal there a year ago and it's so good. It's
Major Domo is incredible, but I'm personally at this moment not looking after Major
You're not
Domo.
looking after that.
That is Jude's baby.
Jude's great.
Yeah, Jude is incredible. And that space is incredible. The team down there is really good.
Yeah, it's great. Gotta go. It's a terrific restaurant. And
right now my focus is truly Kabawa and Bar Kabawa. And I'll probably be in that space for a couple of months until we get it up and running.
Yeah. So, Paul, just tell me about Bar Kabawa and how it's pulling from influences throughout the Caribbean, but also it's staying true to Momofuku, which is also its larger concept. It's got to be a tricky balance, and but you've executed something very special here.
These 2 spaces are to represent and honor like the region of the Caribbean.
Got it. So it's the main restaurant will be a broader.
The way I've broken down the Caribbean is like by where it was colonized, right? So like English, Spanish, French, Dutch, and in every menu there's going to be a breakdown, and we'll touch on different parts of each of those, right?
Okay.
So, like, for instance, within your menu, there's Puerto Rico, there's Jamaica, there's Barbados, there's a bit of Martinique, there's Haiti, like all in that little bar Kabawa menu. I definitely don't want to be preachy about it. Like, that's not the whole
Don't get that vibe
the
at
whole
all.
point.
No.
But it's
great food.
It's really just to like showcase what the region has, and to I guess to also showcase like lesser known islands, right? I think when people think of Caribbean food, especially here, like the first thing is Jamaica, right? Because it's got Bob Marley, it's got Jerk, they've done an incredible job at marketing themselves. And, I want to be able to showcase other places. Like Puerto Rico's part of the Caribbean, Martinique's part of the Caribbean, Guadeloupe, St. Vincent, Dominica, Trinidad. I could keep going.
Yeah, you keep going. And
there's
all
plenty.
unique foodways.
I'm Nomi Fry.
I'm Vincent Cunningham.
I'm Alex Schwartz, and we are Critics at Large, a podcast from The New Yorker. Guys, what do we do on the show every week?
We look into the startling maw of our culture and try to figure something out.
That's right. We take something that's going on in the culture now. Maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a book, maybe it's just kind of a trend.
And we expand it across culture as kind of a pattern or a template.
Join us on Critics at Large from The New Yorker. New episodes drop every Thursday. Follow wherever you get your podcasts.
As the summer travel season approaches, I'm excited to let you know about 2 upcoming Taste Travels, our immersive travel series hosted by cookbook authors and me, Matt Rodbard. On June 15th, I will be joining the Mediterranean dish author Suzy Karache in Barcelona for an incredible week of culinary tours, cooking classes, and plenty of wine and jamon. And on September 15th, I will be joining author and baker Mauricio Leo of The Perfect Loaf for a tour of northern Italy. We will visit artisanal Parmigiano Reggiano and balsamic vinegar producers, take a masterclass in the art of panettone, and of course, eat plenty of stuffed pasta and mortadella in and around Emilia-Romagna. Both trips are nearly sold out and closing soon. If interested, write into hello@tastecooking.com and we will get you the information. That's hello@tastecooking.com. I hope to see you on one of our taste travels this summer. Paul, I don't know much about your background, where you grew up, and what was food like in your home growing up?
Oh my God. All right. We could talk for hours about that.
I did prep for this interview, and I didn't see a lot of like the profile. I haven't read a big profile of you.
I grew up in Barbados, a middle kid, 2 brothers. My older brother is 14 years older than me, so I'm fully middle child, I was a little brother for a long time, and then it had to be a big brother real quick. So, food was always very prevalent in my household, and it was always very prevalent for me because it's the thing I gravitated towards, like as a baby. My parents tell me I'd crawl out of my crib and go pull pots and pans out of the kitchen.
That's so great.
And been cooking for my family since it was like 8 or 9. Because it's just like something that I've just always loved. And, it was always in the house. Like we never went anywhere to eat. Food was at home, or you had school meals, like that was really it. And, Sundays was always like a big cook-up feast. It still is today. Like, talked to Mom last week, and I was like, why are you still cooking so much?
Yeah.
Like, there are 3 of you at home.
It's probably feeding like 12.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
12.
Yeah.
If you're lucky. There's leftovers for weeks.
That's so great.
I had some really good cooks in my family. My uncle was an amazing cook, like an incredible cook, actually. Like, if I was half as good as that guy, I'd be happy. He made this stuffing that to this day I still think about. It makes me so angry that I can't recreate it.
You can't do it. Oh, wow.
No, I can't.
Yeah.
Because like he passed away when I was like I want to say like 20. And he's, he played a really pivotal role for me because he obviously was a really cool uncle. Mom, don't listen to this, but he's the person who gave me my first beer.
You always remember that one.
Oh my
When
God.
it's a family member, you remember that one.
Yeah. Guinness, my first
Oh, wow.
first drink.
Beautiful.
But
Great first beer.
and I love Guinness so
It's
much.
Such a great beer.
Yeah. Love.
Yeah.
But he's an incredible cook. My mom's a really good cook. My dad's not too bad. Grandmother and great grandmother were stupid. Just dumb, like
And so you picked up so much from your family. Just,
Yeah.
like, watching them.
just watching
young-
and also like being involved, like as a kid, like I had to clean all the fish or, pluck the chicken,
Yeah.
whatever. Like
Yeah.
it just had to be, not even had to be, because my brothers didn't have that experience. I just was always around
Yeah, Paul's around. Paul's going
being annoying.
to...
And I also loved to eat as a kid. So like that helped. My little brother, not so much.
Yeah.
Was a very picky eater, but I ate everything and
So it's interesting with an upbringing where restaurants were not even on the radar. You become a restaurant chef. So
Yeah.
what's the trajectory? What's the link between your current chefdom and your life now and this lifestyle growing up where there wasn't restaurants? Where did that enter the picture?
I would credit that to my home economics teachers,
Cool.
Miss St. John and Miss Blackman.
Love
When I got to high school, we had to take like an elective, and it was like woodwork, metalwork, home economics, or typing. And I chose home economics because I'd already been cooking tons, and I
Yeah.
love food.
You probably were really excited about that. But
Oh yeah. And I got there, and I would just make a lot of things in class, and one of the teachers introduced me to the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America.
Incredible.
So because there was no internet then.
Yeah.
At
What
least
year are we talking?
This was 90?
Wow.
Yeah. She sent them a letter and got like a little brochure back and gave me a brochure. And she was like, I think you should be a pastry chef. And I had never thought about work because I was like 11. And
Wow.
and luckily enough to be in a household that I didn't have to work at 11. And it just stuck in my head. And I'm a weird Virgo, so like I just get pestering my parents about it. It was just like, try to leave. I tried to actually go when I was 16.
Oh, just to check it out?
No, like to just go.
Oh, just to go? Like,
Yeah, because I had already graduated high school.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, let's go. And they're just like, no.
So it really stuck with you.
Yeah.
The whole time. You
It
were
was
like,
just in my head. And by 16, I had already been like cooking in a professional kitchen. So my dad got me this gig at a hotel in Barbados when I was like 14, 15. And I just do that for free after school, enjoy holidays.
Wow.
I did that to the end of high school. And then,
just cooking for free.
yeah,
No money. Wow.
no money.
Is that part about
With a schedule.
is that like the culture in Barbados that there's
No, I don't think so. But I think my dad probably thought I just not want to do it because it was hard work.
Yeah.
And because he was like, you're gonna have a schedule, you're gonna have school,
Yeah.
and if this is what work is like, so you commit to a thing, you show up on time, and you do your work, you work as hard as you can, and you repeat. Like that's what work is.
Yeah.
It's not chores. It's not. It's a
And
commitment.
Particularly that's
Right?
what a chef's life is.
And
Yeah.
but I loved it from the first day, and I went all weekends. It was weird being that young and not, doing young people things.
Yeah.
But it was fun. And then after that, the chef there got me a job at one of the best restaurants in the island and I actually got paid then.
Wow.
And that was fun. And the chef gave me a lot of shit because he was like, he'd always be like, if I did something wrong, he'd be like, I'm gonna call the CIA. I'm gonna tell them not to take me.
Wow, that's some
It's the worst.
psychological
Yeah,
warfare.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no.
No,
So,
oh my God.
You're
Well,
too slow. You're not gonna work out at the CIA.
that's crazy. So
You're
what
not using both hands, Paul. You're not gonna work out.
what are these dishes? What are you cooking at this acclaimed restaurant in Barbados?
Just very, very British fare. It was like most things he had mashed potatoes. There was like a weird beef Thai salad on there.
Yeah.
There was a cheesy gnocchi. It was a lot of fresh fish, which was really cool because I ended up being like the butcher. So like I got to like play with like wahoo and mahi and, fresh large tuna. And that's cool at like 17, you know?
Yeah.
And then you go work. I worked like pretty much the entremet section for a while. I did a lot of pastry there. It was really a fun experience. And, I'd never replace it with anything else because I met some really kind people there. And people that took me under their wing because I was just a baby, And yeah, I have been very lucky and privileged to start my career with kind and thoughtful and capable adults that cared for me and taught me very well. And, some of them have passed away now. And a lot of them have stayed with me, like in my heart, and they're very special to me because like they took me to a place where I never thought it would be, and I wouldn't be here today without all of those people and all the people that I met in New York and all the chefs that I've had and work with. Like I did not do this alone.
Yeah, it's a wonderful sentiment to hear, and I'm sure you've maintained that ethic for now that you are in leadership. Let's continue with the narrative. Do you end up at the CIA?
100%. Greatest hospitality school on earth,
Yeah,
bar none. It is fully dedicated to this industry, and I loved going there. And like anything else, it's to all the people that are thinking about going there, you get as much as you put in. So
that's what I always hear about CIA. Yep,
as much as you put in.
Yeah.
And I went there on a mission to do well and to learn as much as I can. And it was all part of my world and trajectory.
What's it like moving to upstate New York from Barbados? What's it like the first couple of years? And what's it like culturally being in America for the first time, living here?
Good Lord. Very took a little adjusting, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Talk about a small town kid, Yeah. I moved here and I stayed in the Bronx for 2 weeks and then I went to the CIA and it was like in the middle of winter. So
Wow.
First time experiencing the cold. First time experiencing the Bronx. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I did go to the Bronx when I was like 11.
Okay.
But first time going upstate, like I'd never gone.
Yeah.
And upstate's beautiful, and interesting. Like it took a little while, and because I'm an introvert at like heart, so I went there. And I just wanted to just do really well at school because it took so much to get me there, both financially and mentally. Like it took a lot for my parents and everybody else involved to like get this poor kid out of the island into this very like, I guess, expensive, exclusive cooking school. Like it wasn't cheap, like especially with the dollar. And the conversion from Barbados money, but once again, incredibly privileged. I had a lot of help.
Yeah.
Even the government helped me.
Amazing.
So
you had fans in the government.
Yeah. Yes.
Now,
so it was it. Yeah. So I just didn't want to fail.
Yeah.
So I went there with this idea of like, I need to be one of the best in this school.
Did that happen?
It did.
Okay.
But I worked for it, like I did. I only started to enjoy my time there and like party wise, like as a teenager, right? It coming down to the end.
Yeah.
Like after externship where I was just like, okay, I can let go a little bit. But like the first, I was just,
You were into the books.
I was so in.
Because it's like academic. For those who don't know, it's like there's a lot of academic work. You're in the classroom, you're reading texts, you're taking tests, and then, of course, all the practical work in the kitchens.
And then I did my bachelor's there, too. So,
yeah, you get the full bachelor's.
So
yeah.
I was just full in.
You're taking science classes, you're taking English classes, yeah.
And I just did not want, I didn't want all the work that everybody put in for me to get there to go to waste.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like, I just wasted everybody's hard work.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I also understood how hard it is to make money.
Yeah.
So, and my parents were from like really poor backgrounds and they worked really hard to like give me and my brothers the opportunity to do things like this. And it's even today it sticks in my head. I was like, I can't fuck this up, man.
Yeah.
Even
today.
Today.
Like for Bar Kabawa.
Today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
you haven't fucked it up, buddy.
What's the point? It's like
your reputation and your food, and you haven't fucked it up.
Like I can't. Like it's
I get it.
I always think about like all the work mom and dad put in for me. Not only for me, but my brothers too. But like I really took advantage of all the work they put in.
Yeah. I tell me about the externship and kind of entering the professional world pre-Momo. Where are you at? What are you doing? I don't know this about your background.
So this is how Paul Carmichael's brain works. I'm at the CIA. I've got a bit of experience because I'm now like 19 or so, or 20, I forget, but like around that age. And I've been cooking since it was 14 at that point. And externship comes around. And I literally open up a Zagat not cookbook, but a Zagat guide. And I'm like, all the top restaurants, I just sent a letter to.
Wow.
I was like, dear Mr. Kuntz, dear Mr. Samuel,
Wow.
And Aquavit was the first one to respond. And
that's with Marcus Samuelson.
This was actually Chef Niels. He
Niels.
was the one.
Yeah, Niels Noren.
Niels Noren. He was the one that like gave me a ring. And I was like, okay, I'll be down for a trial this weekend. And I went there and I was like, I didn't even trial anywhere else. I kind of wish I did.
Yeah.
But I was so like enamored with, because it was so different than cooking in Barbados. It was also, Marcus was super young. I think he was like 26 or 27.
Yeah.
Like there was this energy in that space that it was just like, oh, I want to be a part of this. And yeah, that's where I did my externship. Had tons of fun, met a lot of cool people that are still in my life today. And then I worked there after I graduated. And that was also very fun. An incredibly hard rrestaurant.
It's one of our greatest restaurants in New York right now.
Yeah.
Emma Bankston is doing incredible work there.
It was I'm sure it is much kinder now.
Yeah. Well, you're in an era of real talk, it's the tyrants in the kitchen.
And Marcus was not a tyrant, and neither was Niels. They were very, very great. Niels was an incredible teacher. Like I was like a little, that little fish that latches on to like a great white?
Yeah.
I was that fish.
Oh, okay.
with Niels. There wasn't a lot of money poured into the infrastructure of that kitchen. And it was just a hard place to work, Like it was very small. We pumped out a lot of product. And it was incredibly busy. And we didn't really have a lot of equipment to work with.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those kitchens, you're working a section, it's first come, first serve. Like if you're not there by like 8:30, 9, you are done. Like somebody else has got the one rondo, like
I feel Achatz did. I mean, you hear these stories of just these restricted kitchens. I mean, it could be financial, it could be just the methodology of the chef. Once the cooks still work with limited equipment.
Well, I mean, if you want to saute, you should have a pan.
That's true. But you hear this story. I mean, Repair talks about it. Boulud talks about it. Like these French kitchens that had like one scale.
Yeah, like
it's got to be a mentality.
Aquavit back then was very limited. Like if you had a big prep day, you better get there first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your day is rough.
Yeah, and that's also like clocking out at like 1.
Oh yeah,
and you're
days there were like, people are just like, oh, how'd you get to this point? I was like, I put in a lot of hours, a lot. So you're at Aquavit for and other restaurants for just a long time. You're like Niels would get there. Niels would get there at like 8:39, and he'd do butchering, right? And I would get there with him because I wanted to be him, So I'd be like, all right, I'm going to come help you, learn from you, and then set up my station, or in tandem, like, if I needed like if I had to make like a big batch of consomme, I'd get there like real early, get that
done.
going.
Yeah.
And then work with him, and so that I'd actually like have a pot that I could do it in.
It's amazing when you hear these stories about the way.
But but for me, it wasn't even an issue, and I would not change it. Yeah, because I learned so much.
So you leave Aquavit. Where'd you go?
Ooh, I don't remember.
Okay.
I think actually
there's a Paul Carmichael universe that's blacked out.
I think after Aquavit, I want to say went to the tasting room.
Interesting.
Very
cool.
With Colin and Jason. And that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like really cool. Also a lot of hours, but like
downtown though.
Yeah, but it felt different because Jason, our day would start early because we'd just be like shopping, right? The menu was like we shop for the menu every day.
And shopping mean like green markets.
Yeah, so we go to Union Square, we hit Chinatown, there are all these like little shops we go to, and then we're all like coming back with the bags. And then we prep for service and we work service. So and also I think the cool thing about working there was like we were closed Sunday and Monday. So we could do 16, 17, at least, I'm young, or was young, do 16, 17 hours, and, like, weekend's coming. But you're just, like, we had so much fun just, like, cooking there. And then where did I go after that? I think after that was WD-50.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is not true.
Okay. Back it up.
After that, I went to Asiat.
Okay, Asiat.
I went to Asiat, and I was there for like 2 years, and that was also a really good experience. I met my best friend there. Shout out to Bisan, Brandon. And then after that, I think I went to WD-50.
Tell me about the WD-50 era. It's obviously Wiley Dufresne running the show, but who's doing pastry at that time, and what are your roles?
So I was the tournant.
Okay.
Pastry, I was there for a little while. So like, and I would love to say I was there in like the era.
Yeah.
So it was
the
like
era of like food and wine covers and stuff like that. Yeah.
But no, I think it was like the era before WD. Like we were the crew that got the Michelin star, the first one, right? So I started there when people really didn't like it, and I ended there when it was like super crazy, and everybody wanted to go. So Sam Mason was the pastry chef, and then during my time there, Alex became the pastry chef.
Alex Stupak,
yeah. And it was a kitchen of like I want to say killers.
Yeah.
Like Alex Stupak, Christina Tosi, Phil was there at that time. The sous chef Mikey was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a really good and strong team.
Does it take your culinary IQ to a new level? Did you learn like a new style cooking that I would say probably informs your work today?
I will tell you the thing that informs my work today is like Wiley demanded us to, I guess, participate in creativity. And Wiley was the first chef to like actually like care about my opinion. And that in of itself was incredibly freeing for me. Because I got to like exercise this creative muscle that I really never truly got to exercise. Like a little bit at the tasting room, but it was like, I think that was incredibly simple. Like I felt like we were just cooking there.
Yeah.
And that was cool and super fun. We made really tasty things. But like at WD, it was like this. I did so much failing at WD that it truly helped me to like A, enjoy failing, and B, know how to like not think of it as a dead end. Just think of it as the beginning of something else.
It's just a continued creative process.
Yeah.
It's like the laboratory idea of like trial and error.
Yeah,
and
you fail somewhere, but you succeed somewhere else, and where the failure comes, you can take something from there and do something else. And that way of like, I guess that deep dive into creativity was like incredibly helpful for me because it's something that I still value, Honestly, also what I've realized, it's a hard way to run a kitchen, because everyone that works does not care about creativity, does not care about like pushing themselves to the next step, like some people just want to like
do a job.
And
they're not reading like food arts and art culinaire.
Yeah.
And they're not geeking out at kitchen arts and letters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I would say that kitchen, everyone wasn't like that, but the majority of us was like that. And it was the one and only kitchen I've ever worked in where we started together, we ended together, and we did everything together.
Yeah. Yep. Major credit to Wiley Dufresne
Oh,
for
100%.
fostering that. And history has really written that story, and everyone knows WD-50 was a special place, not just because of cuisine, but because of his practices and just the
he is an
hyper-creativity.
incredible human, I could only sing his praises. I'd love to talk shit because in person I talk a lot of shit to him. But
you go up to the pizza spot and talk a little shit.
Just like wow.
Yeah.
Right?
Stretch is good.
Oh, Stretch is amazing.
Stretch is great. I mean, it's not just good, it's great. It's a great pizza. Yeah, I love the spot.
But in all honesty, Wiley is the truth, man. He's great human, great teacher, incredible mentor. I can only sing his praises, and I kind of wish this wasn't going to be public.
We'll edit it accordingly. No, okay. I'm just going to take a guess, just knowing the history of WD-50 and knowing the history of Momofuku and knowing how the transition of talent flowed. I'm going to guess that you went to Momo next.
No, I actually went to Puerto Rico next.
Okay, but there is like that lineage from WD-50, obviously, to Momo, but you went to Puerto Rico. Cool.
The funny thing is like I think without WD-50, I probably would never have worked at Momo.
That's
the truth. I put a few dishes on at WD-50, and Dave ate at WD-50 a bunch. And one of his favorite things he ate there was one of my dishes, and he was like, who's blah blah blah.
What's the dish?
I think it was like this vegan thing I put on with like which is weird for Dave to be eating, yes, but Wiley told Dave it was like one of my dishes, and after that, Wiley was like, Dave was like, would you want to be a part of the team? And I was like, I'm going to move to Puerto Rico. I'm not coming back. Right?
Wow. Plot twist, Paul.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You were done with New York.
Yeah, I was done. I was out. I didn't think it was actually coming back here. I went to PR with the intention of like trying my hand at a business, but when I got there, the market like fell out. It was like the worst timing.
So you were opening a restaurant?
It wasn't. I went there with the intention to,
Oh, I see. You didn't even
and it just did not happen because it was like financial crisis in the U.S. and if it's financial crisis here, Puerto Rico is not faring well. And it was a tough time. It was a tough 3 years there.
Wow, 3 years. What are you doing there?
I worked. I ran this little restaurant called Perla. That was a fun time. And
Are you in San Juan or are you outside?
I was in San Juan. I was in Condado. Love Puerto Rico. A lot of my family is from Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My kid's Puerto Rican.
Oh, wow.
You know.
Amazing.
Dave called me. You ready to come back? And I was like, yes. Because Tin and him were opening Mapesh. And I came back to be Tin's sous chef. And I did that for about 9-10 months. And
This is Tin Ho you're speaking of.
Tin Ho.
This is the
Tin
Vietnamese concept that Mapesh was opened as you referred to earlier. And this is this big opening.
Big opening.
Big splashy opening. Momo in Midtown. Big weird space. Like, you're there.
Yeah. Day one.
As
Tin's sous chef.
Yeah.
And then when Tin decided to leave, both him and Dave asked me to be the chef, and I was just like, no.
Right away.
I was like, absolutely not.
What? Why? Why was that your response?
Because that space was a disaster. I was just like, oh my God.
A lot of stairs.
A lot of stairs.
Yeah.
You only know it's there if you know.
I mean, the visual trick with the I would say with the tarps.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just taking people back. I mean, there were like
Peach
these tarps.
tarps.
These tarps that, because like the space, let's just paint the picture. It's like, what is it? The ceiling is like 35 feet.
Yeah. Real high ceiling.
35 feet ceiling.
But you're still underground.
But you're no windows.
Yeah.
Underground.
Mm-hmm.
A bar maybe on a different level.
Bar on a different level, then a mezzanine on a different
Then a
level.
mezzanine and then a dining room.
All activated, by the way.
All active. And you got milk bar in the lobby.
Plus room service. Plus breakfast.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. P.S. It's in a hotel. P.S. It's in a hotel.
Yeah.
And it's this big brand. I mean, this is like Momo at the top of its powers in New York. Huge profile. And it's got this funky space.
And I was like, oh my God, this is I was like, I don't know if I could do this.
That's why it's a special restaurant.
Yeah.
Especially when you took over, when the food was really, especially lunch. And I mean, just pop it. It was, you made it work, man.
I never thought that when it was there, I just thought it was barely surviving.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had an incredible crew there. Like,
yeah,
incredible. And they're running some really cool spots here in the city, which I'm incredibly proud of,
Let's get into Bar Kabawa, because I love hearing your history, and thank you for taking us through. It's remarkable, and I really was a joy to hear you talk about your history. And I just want to talk a little bit about the bar side of it, because that's what I've experienced.
Yeah.
And by the time this runs, we're recording this to time with the opening, or at least the opening announcement of Kabawa, so we'll get into some details there. But like, I would say the cuisine, I mean, I was all over the menu when I visited, and this Solomon Gundy dip or spread, you'd call it.
Dip, spread,
delicious. Goop. My Jewish background makes me think of whitefish salad, but Solomon Gundy, just for our audience, is a unique product that you've channeled into this spread, this goop. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I mean, like, traditionally at its core, it's a Jamaican dip that you made from smoked mackerel and allspice habanero, and I just wanted to do something that honored that, and that, once again, if a Jamaican came in and had it, they would have called BS, So while it's not uber traditional, because we're using mullet roll,
and
then I added the smoke with smoked red herring.
Beautiful.
And yeah, we serve it with some little cute cassava crisp and dried okra, and it's pretty delish. I wanted to make it like creme brulee, So like that's why the texture is I guess like creamy, and then it's bruleed on top. Uh, uh, but this is like the way of thinking in like the WD way, right? So it's like you try the exercises over and over again to see what works and what doesn't work. And I knew just basically from doing all these exercises or creative exercises, like burning sugar on top, I was like, I know that's gonna work, you know, even though it's weird. Like I
Yeah.
think like sugar of fish probably weird.
But I mean, you break through with the cassava chips,
Yeah.
or the dehydrated okra, which I mean loved. It was these little bites of just pure okra. You don't really think about sugar. You think about the dipping, the breaking, moment. Yeah,
and the experience of like getting to the dip, and that bit of bitterness from like the burnt sugar, like really, like I guess accentuates like the smokiness and the spice level of the gundy.
How do you do the cocoa bread, man? I'm like, I mean, how do you make a bread course feel like a star? And I feel like just wrapping it around one of the doubles,
Yeah,
is like the way to do it. And it's just such a delicious bite.
that was a lot of trial and error, because one, I wanted to do it with coconut, because I'm like, what is this thing called cocoa bread that doesn't have cocoa? Coconut.
Yeah.
So there was a lot. The hardest bit was the shape, like getting the shape right. But the bread we had already had like like there's already been work done like recipeing that bit, but like getting the shape and the bake was like the bit that took a lot of like trial and error. I know we pretty much got it dialed in, like, and the shape's like so simple. Like we overthought it so much. It's like make a ball, roll it out, flip, like close it.
Yeah.
Just essentially we just made a clam and pushed them together so they could be pulled apart. And
that's the moment, when you pull it apart and you've got that rush of hot air coming out of it.
and it's like it was also like we also thought too much about baking, and did all these things, and it just turns out we just bake it at 350 degrees for 25 minutes.
25, put the timer on, you're done. And then you're
like
selling.
We tried steaming them, we tried steam bake. It was all this stuff, and just like 350. That's it.
You split the menu between fried and baked patties, and I'd love to get a sense of, you say the menu travels the Caribbean, and I tried several of baked and fried, and tell us a little bit about some of these pies, these patties that represent.
So they're split into baked and fried. For one, baked is the traditional way to go.
Yeah.
Fried is I guess that came up at Seobo, because I always wanted to do a patty indie tasting, but I didn't want to mess around with like baking, because I also wanted things at Seobo to be like very a la minute.
Yeah,
so
you
like,
drop and you fry and you
so like
serve,
you like when you were at Seobo, like we were moving, because like everything was like cooked for you. And I didn't want like a course where it was just like, we're going to bake off of these 50 patties and then warm them up for you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted people to see that like, hey, this is actually happening for you in this moment. So that's where we came up with this idea as my buddy would say, the liquid oven.
Yeah. That's
great.
That'd be a great cookbook title.
Yeah, liquid oven.
Yeah, the liquid
Everything
oven.
in the fryer.
Let's
right?
do a deep fry book. Yeah.
So I split them in Bar Kabawa's iteration, and the fillings for the baked ones are more traditional fillings, and not traditional from a point of view that you could find them in Haiti or Jamaica, but traditional from traditional things found in the Caribbean. So like Jira goat from Trinidad, there's Criollo chicken from Puerto Rico, there's curry crab that, you could find a lot of places in the Caribbean. And then there's like an eggplant, which like that eggplant really references my aunt used to do this eggplant casserole that I really love.
Yeah.
And that really is like from her. The fried ones are more, I guess, I want to say more, not creative. I don't want to use the word creative, but like things you won't necessarily see.
Yeah, you're putting on the capital C chef hat.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So it's like that's where you got like the beef with conch and bone marrow, the pepper pot duck and foie, kale and oats. That's more that line. Because I also wanted to like showcase other flavors like throughout the region, and I didn't necessarily want to be pigeonholed being like, oh, it's patties, oh, it's Jamaican,
Yeah.
Like you will never see any of that at a Jamaican patty shop.
And I think that's the messaging that is evolving with this food, because I think in New York, and you're really catering to downtown New York diners, you think of the patty, you think of Jamaica.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge for you to kind of break through and say, this is like, it could be a tasting. I know you can do probably a patty tasting.
Oh, like the other day, I asked one of my cooks, I was like, what do you want to do for a special? Because we do some specials.
Oh, cool.
And she was like, chopped cheese. And so I did chopped cheese, we put it in a patty.
Beautiful. I mean, is there like a fast casual patty concept for you? Because I think just the idea you're thinking about how patties can be done in many ways, the oats and kale comes to mind. Beautiful dish. Love that.
Sleeper. That's a sleeper on the menu.
I loved it. I just, really delicious. Would you do it? Would you do like a patty concept? I know like Momo like plays in this sandbox a little bit. You got the Fuku in those basketball stadiums.
Man, I we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if the way we do it could be scalable, because it's so much work.
I know it is. I peeked into the kitchen and I just saw the work that goes into your the patties
like,
in general. Yeah.
Fully underestimated how much.
You did?
I was just like, we'll get one prep cook and it'll be fine. They'll knock it out. Wrong.
Wrong. Labor cost goes up. P&L looks a little different.
Yep. It was like so wrong.
Let's talk about Kabawa proper, the prefix menu that you're opening soon. What can you tell us about some of the dishes that we're going to find in there? How does this evolve? I'm really curious because we're recording this before anything really is out. I'm going right to the source here. So I'm
going to be very honest.
Yeah.
I'm not fully there yet.
Sure.
I know the structure. I kind of know what desserts we're going to do for sure. And I'm still going through like the main like items. But I want to have some sort of curry on there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do like some sort of sausage on there. I know this is so
great content. No, it's actually really, really important, because this is how it works, listeners. This is how it works.
It's but structurally the menu will be like 6 to 7 things in each section.
Yeah. And pick one.
Pick one from each section.
3 sections. Pick one.
Pick one. I want to do like a take on pepper shrimp, which I'm still working on.
Where's your shrimp coming from?
Shrimp's coming from Long Island.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What else would I say? I want to do some saltfish fritters.
Do the patties make up an appearance?
No, patties do not.
Patties, you got to be at the bar.
Patties. So like essentially, these are 2 separate concepts.
Yeah.
And I'd love people to think of them, even if we share an address. But think of them if the patty place was in, Flatbush.
Yeah.
And Kabawa was on an extra place. Like they're coming from a very common place, but they're very 2 different things. The restaurants, like, I want it to be fun and inviting and warm.
Yeah.
But you get the restaurant experience.
What's the price point we're looking at?
We're looking at $150-ish per person. And that's going to include some surprises. But
of course. Yeah. This is a 3-course prefix But in a tasting menu.
Venue.
Venue.
In a
Well,
tasting menu venue.
But this is the Momo style, which is a lot of surprises, a lot of fun stuff happening, a lot of improvisational moments.
Yeah, and I hope so. I hope that we could get to the point where there's a lot of improv, because like that's where I have the most fun.
Paul, and this is Taste. We ask guests about their discerning taste. So to close this interview, here's a little rapid fire, fast and furious taste check.
Oh,
All
God.
right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, this is going to be fun. The best fruit.
Best fruit. Oh, God, you're going to make me pick one.
Yeah, I am.
All right, if it's one I got to eat for the rest of my life, would be probably mangoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, love mango.
You love mangoes.
Also love pineapple, but like I love mango.
Mangoes. The worst vegetable.
Oh, this is going to get a lot of hate, but I'd probably say artichoke.
Yeah.
Like the juice ain't worth the squeeze for me. Too much work to get. Although I did have a really good artichoke salad a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Where was that at?
This little Italian restaurant in the East Village. Can't remember the name.
Yeah.
I could walk there though.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Like right before service or after service?
Like it was really nice. I was just like, that's a lot of work and I appreciate this work.
I love that. What's your typical breakfast?
I don't really eat breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you do coffee? Do anything?
I don't drink coffee either. I know I'm so weird.
Nah.
But I'll get up, I'll drink water, and then I'll usually just go to work.
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing.
Okay. It works for you.
If I had to pick a breakfast food, I do love eggs. I love eggs.
Yeah.
And I think New York City bodegas have real good bacon, egg, and cheeses.
You know it.
Like, I love them.
You know, and you got your favorite ones, and you got to support.
Yep, you definitely have your favorite ones. Like there's some that are full trash.
Oh yeah.
And then there are others you just like, this is the spot, and I hope my guy's working.
How do you square the bread though? Because I feel like sometimes maybe that's just the bad ones.
For me, I'm a bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll, salt, pepper, mayo, ketchup guy.
Yeah.
Like that's my move.
You always have to call salt and pepper though.
Oh, you always
The novices don't do that.
If you don't call salt and pepper, you get nothing.
You get nothing, and that's
and if you don't call sauce, you also get nothing.
You get nothing. Yeah, egg and cheese on a roll without it, salt and pepper, you're getting nothing. That's the pro tip. This is a good one because you have such a history with New York. Is there a restaurant you wish you could bring back from the dead?
From New York?
It could be anywhere. I'm sorry. It could be anywhere in the world.
This is purely selfish. Because I never got the chance to go. At that time, I was incredibly poor, making $300-400 a week.
Yeah.
Does it really get you to Spain?
Yeah. Oh, I see where you're going with this.
I would have loved to go to LBE.
Yeah.
Because especially with my affiliation with WD-50, it's like that was a very critical moment in like culinary history, and that's one place I would have loved to experience, especially at that time. Right now, I'm not so sure, but like if I could go back in time and go there, I would.
Yeah, Adria just pioneering the style of service, and of course, his cuisine influenced Wiley and everyone else.
Grant and everybody.
Yeah. It's not said enough. It was so critical. When you're craving fast food, where are you going?
Probably McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love a McChicken with ranch dressing.
Yes.
I love some nuggies.
Yeah.
Mix of sweet and sour and barbecue.
Oh, you go half and half.
I go half and half.
Genius move. I always go sour, only sour, but I'm like, thinking, double dip, and it's easy.
Yeah. Probably good old Macca's.
Yeah. It's a great brand.
But I also love Popeyes. I'm not gonna lie.
Yo, the biscuit is god tier for me. I love that biscuit.
Popeyes slaps.
Yeah, it's good. Few more. Favorite city outside America to visit for food?
Ooh, good one. Maybe Bangkok.
Amazing. Yeah.
Bangkok's fun.
Yeah.
Really good food. Never had a bad meal in Bangkok.
Right.
I've had bad meals in a lot of cities. Even cities people are like, you have to go. I'm like, but
what is that one? Yeah, I mean, you've been so positive, but I know you've been holding it back.
So like, look, for instance, everybody's like, for Tokyo, everyone's like, oh my God, food's so amazing. I'm like, the food in Tokyo is amazing when you know where to go.
I know.
Tokyo I don't find is a place you just walk in anywhere and you're like just floored. But when you know, it's incredible.
Yeah.
I think Tokyo for drinks though,
Yeah.
you could walk in most places and have a good cocktail experience.
It's very true.
Yeah.
And just like a style of service that is just an incredible hospitality.
My first trip to Asia was to Tokyo for just solely for cocktails. Cause like I'm a big drinks guy. Like I love cocktails, I love wine. I guess this is why bar kabao has been in my head for so long.
And the daiquiris are really, really, really cool.
They're very special there, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say Bangkok, bang for buck,
I like
is like will be my pick.
Okay. Last one, your favorite sandwich.
Ooh, damn, favorite sandwich.
Yeah.
This one I'm gonna have to call a few because
I'll give you that.
I'm a moody eater.
Yeah.
But I love a good BLT.
Yeah.
I love a Reuben, like a strong Reuben.
Well, Paul, I wish you all the best with Kabawa. I'm such a fan of Momofuku. Do not shy away from my love for what you're doing at all your restaurants and the teams there. Thank you so much for joining This Is Taste.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Roger Kamholtz, This Is Taste. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making your way up to Midtown today. It's always, I think, a trek even for people that live in New York.
All good.
To start off, I'm wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about what draws you professionally and personally to the world of drinks.
Oh, well, I've been around cocktails for a very long time. My father was kind of like a cocktail aficionado, I would say, and was always making drinks for like family and friends. He was like a very big host. And I feel like even long before, what I would sort of call like the renaissance of cocktails over the last, 20 years or so, he was into it and he was like very knowledgeable, and it always seemed very kind of natural and expected to have that kind of knowledge. So it was more just drafting off of him and something that we shared together as I was growing up. I remember he took a trip to Brazil, like when I was probably like in my teens maybe, and came back and he was like making caipirinhas for like his like, friends and family. And I don't know, like it was like something that only sort of arrived, I would say, in America much, much later on. So he was sort of ahead of his time in that way. And I think I definitely gravitated toward studying cocktails and making them based on his sort of guidance in that way.
Yeah, I love hearing about the caipirinha because also that's just juicing so many limes. That's a real like love language for somebody. Are there any other drinks that you think of growing up as being like your dad's signature drinks or drinks that you were just kind of consciously aware of?
Yes. I think that the gin and tonic is another one that was always sort of like around, classic drink, very kind of easy to make, very homey and comforting. I think. Another, he was, he would probably say that he taught many of the bartenders of New York how to make a Boulevardier, which is like, was his drink for many, many years. And he would always sort of bring it up and hold court at bars and sort of instruct bartenders who probably knew how to make it to begin with about how to make it, just because he loved to sort of share his knowledge and kind of enthusiasm for those sorts of things.
I think it's interesting to think about growing up around cocktails because some parents are very closed off to their kids trying things or drinking alcohol. And it seems like maybe you got to sip on something when your dad was making it a bit. But I'm curious, when you kind of came into your own and you were in your own adult life of drinking, like how did you kind of shape your own knowledge and your own preferences?
Yeah. So it probably, I would say that as a writer and someone who really wanted to kind of study it and immerse myself in the cocktail kind of community, that really happened when I was living in Chicago. I moved there. I'm originally from New York. I moved to Chicago for school and then stayed there for many years thereafter. And at that time, the cocktail scene in the city was really kind of blossoming. It was like all these bars that are now kind of like benchmarks of the whole kind of cocktail boom are there, and they were opening at that time. So, I feel like it was there that I learned so much more about spirits. I was being introduced to things I had never heard of through these drinks that were being served at these places where, the kind of playbook was being written like for the first time, or at least like newly again. And I think that was really formative for me. So, places like the Violet Hour, which opened in 2007, I was living there in Chicago at the time, and that was like such a revelatory place to go because it was so different, so unique. The drinks and the environment and everything, it really kind of transported you to somewhere else. And I really geeked out on that. And, experiences like that just like got me excited about learning more. And there were a lot of books being published at that time. David Wondrich's very famous book called Imbibe came out, I believe, in 2004, 2005. Getting a copy of that, reading about the history of cocktails and famous bartenders from, before Prohibition who were, sort of like the rock stars of their time, were quite famous in their own right for their, for their hospitality, for their showmanship, all that stuff. So, it's kind of like this new discipline to learn with all this really interesting history. So it appealed to me in so many ways. I mean, I was in Chicago studying journalism and sort of was able to plug into some of the local publications and start writing about drinks without, there feeling like, a lot of barriers to entry. I mean, I wasn't necessarily getting paid much, but I just loved it and wanted to do it. And, that was sort of my way in and my sort of public education and in a more kind of formal way. Whereas, growing up, it was just something that was sort of around that would seemed interesting and a way to, again, like connect with my father or with him and his friends and feel a little bit more kind of grown up than I really was.
I love hearing about this background. I think something that I find so interesting about writing about drinks and cocktails is there is so much history and these ingredients coming into fashion or being available in the U.S. at all. And it kind of is this microcosm of a larger cultural moment. And we're here to talk about your book also, which is so cool because it's a 2-ingredient cocktail book poured together. Where did that idea come from?
So the idea for the book actually came from Clarkson Potter. So the publishing company that is publishing the book, they had this kind of general idea for a book that would feature cocktail recipes that would just require 2 ingredients to make. They didn't really have much more, kind of fleshed out in terms of the concept than that, but they were looking for a writer to, kind of run with it. And we ended up getting connected, and they, to their credit, they sort of let me to, sort of shape the idea in ways that felt sort of natural and true to my own experience, which was great. So, I kind of approached it with, sort of at first, like wondering, is there a whole book to this? Because, as someone who has studied cocktails, so cocktails don't sort of typically have 2 ingredients. They usually have more than that.
Right. I think of like rum and Coke, gin and tonic.
Yes.
I think that's the extent of 2-ingredient cocktails that I could name.
So at first I was sort of thinking about like, where can I take this? Like, is there a whole book's worth of drinks, that kind of fit this profile? And started to explore it. And, soon enough went from, kind of wondering what I could put together. And then it became more like, well, there's a lot out there, more than I expected to find. And then it was about like, okay, what should I include? How can I sort of shape all of these recipes and kind of curate them and organize them in a way that sort of is true to the intent of the of the concept, right? So in that way, it was about, well, 2-ingredient cocktails, they're going to be, sort of easier to make. They're a little more accessible because they don't require a whole lot of ingredients, things like that. So that became kind of an organizing principle of the book, is to use that way in as sort of an educational premise. So, the book sort of starts with cocktails that are much lighter in body, kind of, moves through a progression leading to cocktails that are maybe a little bit more involved to prepare. But my hope is that, folks who want to get into cocktails but don't know where to start, or want kind of easier drinking drinks, or just, want to kind of go easy on themselves in terms of what they need to buy, what they need to have around. It's meant to be a book that hopefully you can kind of pick up and open to a page and sort of run with whatever you find. And there's, it's very deliberate in kind of selecting a sort of wide variety of drinks. So, to your point, there are things that are more familiar, like a dark and stormy, right, which is rum and ginger beer, something that people might recognize, but then other drinks that are maybe utilizing spirits or ingredients that aren't kind of what I would think of as like in the mainstream. For me, one of my favorite spirits that I don't think gets enough love is absinthe. So there's quite a few absinthe cocktails, and that's kind of my implicit nudge for everyone to, hopefully get a little bit closer to that spirit, because I think it's really beautiful and interesting and complex, and, probably has a lot of mystique and maybe some negative associations around it that really it doesn't deserve, because it's a quite lovely and elegant spirit to drink.
I love hearing about how absinthe is a liquor or spirit that you're championing in this book. I'm curious in the development process if there are any other ingredients you stumbled across that you thought, wow, this really lends itself to a 2-ingredient cocktail. It's doing a lot from a flavor perspective.
Yeah, it's a great question. Another category of ingredient that I hadn't really explored a whole lot myself before, that I really got into, was sherry. So sherry is a Spanish wine. There's a whole kind of universe within that word of varieties. Sherry can be kind of very dry. It can be very rich and kind of raisiny and concentrated. And because of that variety, and because every sherry has so many different kind of elements to it, and the flavor profile is very complex, I find that an ingredient like that is a great choice for a 2-ingredient cocktail, because, you're not working with a lot, so you need everything in that drink to really kind of punch above its weight and really shine and bring a lot to the table. And sherry was one that, I found in some of the older cocktail literature that I was researching, that's an ingredient that I think goes back a long way and has been used in cocktails since, kind of the dawn of cocktails. So there's quite a few drink recipes in the book featuring sherry, one of which is called the Adonis, which now when I make it for friends, they're like, "Oh, this is so lovely." It's sherry and sweet vermouth. So it's a drink that if you saw it and you kind of sipped it, you'd think that you're having kind of like a Manhattan, like it's very kind of dark and brooding. But it's much lighter in terms of like the alcohol content. So it's a drink that you can kind of have a few of and not be too worried about about the effects of that. But at the same time, it's an up drink. So it's stirred. You could serve it sort of martini style. And it sort of has a lot of presence, but isn't a very like weighty kind of brooding drink the way like a Manhattan might be.
I'm curious how you defined ingredients for this book. I think if someone is cooking online and you see a recipe that says like 3-ingredient pasta, things like olive oil or salt don't necessarily count as those ingredients a lot of the time. So did you manage to sneak in like a garnish or a squeeze of lime, or how did you kind of approach that framework?
Yes. So in my mind, and I say this in the book, that the 2 ingredients should be like 2 co-stars, right? Like You have they're bringing the flavor to the party, right? So something like ice, water, these are essentials in a cocktail, but they're not really contributing any flavor. They certainly are affecting the temperature, the texture of a drink, etc. But I never thought that water should be listed as an ingredient because it's sort of in every drink in some way, and would sort of limit how many drinks we could include in the book if water was an ingredient. So things like ice, water, garnishes, as you said. So garnishes, I kind of had sort of philosophical sort of angst about how to sort of treat that. In my mind, a garnish can be there, maybe not. It's sort of optional in a lot of cases. It adds to the drink in terms of like the visual, and maybe it adds some kind of little pop of flavor. So I decided not to count garnishes as an ingredient so that it wouldn't limit what we could do in terms of 2-ingredient cocktails.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how much the garnish is required. Like, if you were given a martini without an olive in it, would it still be a martini?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I have had good martinis that don't have any garnish. I think that adding garnish certainly enhances them. It brings them to sort of another level. So martini is in the book. I think some of the best martinis that I've had will use like a little lemon twist, not olive. Those are some things that kind of take the drink in different directions. So, there's sort of like the core requirements, of a martini. You've got your in my mind, gin and dry vermouth, and then you can kind of like take it in different directions and customize it and tailor it for your taste with the garnish. But again, like the core of the drink is those two things together.
I wonder if you could recommend a 2-ingredient cocktail for me. I really like agave-based spirits, like tequila or mezcal or something like that.
Okay. Well, are you a beer drinker by any chance?
Yeah, I like beer.
Okay. Well, there's a drink in the book. It's called the Smoky Paloma Radler. So this drink is like a citrus ale mixed with mezcal. So a radler is a beer cocktail, usually combining beer with some kind of like citrus ingredient. So, so classic combinations would be like some kind of ale with like lemonade, right? Or grapefruit juice. Great drinks, really juicy, really refreshing, especially in summertime. So in the book, I have a drink that sort of like plays off of that, kind of a little boozier with the addition of the mezcal. And then for that citrus element, there's plenty of citrus ales out there that almost taste like a Paloma in and of themselves. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of just like a little kind of boozy twist on a Paloma using beer as the base. So you might like that.
Oh, that sounds great. I feel like that's a perfect summer entertaining option also.
I totally agree. I think that beer cocktails, wine cocktails often get kind of left out of the conversation when it comes to cocktails. And in the book, I, again, very deliberately try to include those kinds of drinks because I think that, again, they're easy to make. You're always going to have those ingredients sort of around. And I think there should be no rules stopping you from adding a little something to your wine or to your beer. I think we often treat those ingredients as, they're perfect the way they are, or they're not meant to be kind of adulterated with other stuff, but why not break some rules?
Yeah, I have a friend who delights in ordering white wine with ice at bars here in New York.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Mostly for the expression of whoever's serving it to her, but I really appreciate that she knows what she wants and she's not afraid to ask for it.
I applaud that. Because sometimes you want your wine to be ice cold, and it's
it's the way to do it.
There you go.
So beyond the limitations of 2-ingredient cocktails, I'm curious what you find exciting in the cocktail scene these days, either in New York or outside of the city.
I will say that as I've gotten older and I've been kind of doing this for a while, I don't go out nearly as much as I used to.
That's fair. That's fair. You put in the time.
Yes. So I probably am not as plugged in as I wish I was anymore. But I think that what's always amazing to me and something that has kept me interested in this pursuit all these years is that it's just so endless. Like the frontier always has room to expand, and bartenders are, in my experience, kind of talking to them, interviewing them, kind of peppering them with questions, like nerding out, whatever. They're these amazingly creative people. They are always trying new things and always creating these new combinations of flavors and textures. And I think that is what I'm always amazed by and always like keeps me interested is that, tomorrow there'll be something new. I do a lot of writing for Punch, which is a cocktail publication online. And I don't know if it was intentional or unintentional, but I've kind of been on this Campari beat for a little while, writing about what bartenders are doing with Campari, which is this red bitter Italian liqueur. There are bartenders putting it into amaretto sours, which I would never even think to do that. And bartenders who are using it in their margaritas. So things like that, just like combining things and trying things out and seeing what works is one of the beauties of, I think, cocktails is that, and the combinations are endless. So I'm always excited for what I'm seeing out there in terms of new ingredients, old ingredients being used in new ways, things like that.
Yeah, I'm curious, how do you feel about the drink of the summer discourse? I feel like that's a trap we find ourselves in media, that every summer there's an article saying that the Dirty Shirley or the Aperol Spritz is going to be the drink of the summer. How do you feel about that?
I think that people should drink what they want rather than drink what they think they should be having. That being said, I think that there's kind of this like hive mind that exists in cocktails where people want to try that thing that is kind of new, interesting, and sort of, gravitate toward these things that are popping up. I mean, the espresso martini, I always think about that. Like, it's a great drink. It actually, like, coming back to it and sort of when that was sort of rising in popularity again, I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But then, like,
it's still a very popular drink.
It's exactly. It deserved to be revisited and reimagined. And I think drinks of summer, right? It feels like this thing that everyone gets to participate in and feel like they're part of this bigger kind of moment and bigger cultural shift. So I like it in that regard, but I don't know. As long as everyone is sort of enjoying the drink for what it is rather than the hype that is surrounding it.
Yeah, it's not an edict that you must order this drink when you go to the bar. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I wonder if the Campari trend that you're talking about that you're seeing now is somehow a byproduct of the fact that the American drinking public got more comfortable drinking Aperol with the Aperol Spritz a couple years ago. And now these other versions of these aperitif that maybe like aren't quite as sweet, like maybe there's more of people who know that that's something they want to try, or there's more of a market for that because of it.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say that there is sort of a leading edge of kind of like taste in terms of what people like have tried and like, and bitter is kind of like a perfect example of that. Like, I feel like people who are getting into cocktails may initially find cocktails that sort of lean bitter, a little off-putting, but then it takes time. It sort of takes acquiring that taste for it, and then you find, oh wow, this is actually like really interesting. It's really complex. It's like hitting a different part of my palate and brain, et cetera. And I think that, like that's such a common refrain in cocktails where something sort of starts out being a bit sort of niche, and then it kind of grows into something much more mainstream.
Yeah, what you're saying about bitter reminds me of an experience that I had ordering a Negroni for the first time when I was like studying in the UK. So I wasn't legal to drink in the US. So it was like one of the first experiences I had ordering like a classic cocktail at a bar. And my uncle drinks Negronis. I hope he listens to this. 'Cause I ordered it because I was like, oh, this is a grown-up drink to order. And I tried it. And, it probably wasn't very good considering the like student bar that I was at. But it just was terrible. And I ditched it immediately. And now later on, Mezcal Negroni is one of my go-to drinks to order at a bar. And I remember the first time that I tried a Negroni again and I actually liked it. And my first thought was, oh, I'm getting old. But it's nice to know that you have the capacity, our palates have the capacity to grow and change based on what you're exposed to.
I think that's so fascinating, right? Like you try something once, like, I mean, coffee is another example. Like who as a child likes to drink coffee? It's us. But by the time you get to be much older, you sort of find something in it that appeals to you. And if you met your younger self, you'd be like, oh my gosh, you drink coffee now? That's crazy.
I work a job now and I have to wake up, so I'm drinking coffee.
Well, yes, there's that aspect too.
Okay, so to close today, I want to play a rapid fire taste check game with you. So I'll give you categories and you're going to have to play favorites and tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay.
Your favorite cocktail book that's not your own?
Oof. There is a book series that came out back in like 2009, 2011 called initially it was called Rogue Cocktails. They changed the name to Beta Cocktails. It was very formative for me back then. A lot of very challenging, kind of iconoclastic cocktails in that book, and taught me a lot about things like Chinar, which we talked about before, and Mezcal. It was very ahead of its time in terms of its sort of kind of outlook on how cocktails could be made, and broke a lot of rules, which I appreciated. There's another book called Bitters by Brad Thomas Parsons, and that book also was like a go-to for a very long time for me. I just, again, crack it open, make a drink out of that book. Got me more and more comfortable and accustomed to having bitter cocktails, which has always been, since then, I think a mainstay of my sort of drink diet. Toby Maloney's book, Bartender's Manifesto, is another one. A little bit more kind of technical, but definitely for someone who wants to sort of understand the mechanics and of cocktails, how they come together. How do you create a balanced cocktail that sort of has all of the kind of elements working together in tandem? It's a great book to read.
Okay, I'm cutting you off at 3, but they're all great examples.
It was supposed to be 1? I'm sorry.
But I like all 3. We'll keep them.
Okay.
What's your favorite cookbook right now?
We just got a couple of cookbooks recently. One is called Justine Cooks. It's great. There's a lot of great ideas in there. So I do a lot of the cooking at home. So that's one that I'm kind of flipping through right now. It's probably been out for a while. The Tartine Bread cookbook is another.
Are you baking bread at home?
Yes. This is like, I'm very late to the party, but I am.
The party is always going.
Is it? Okay, good. Yes, I'm kind of dabbling in bread and pizza dough. So right now I'm trying to learn how to make baguettes, which is very kind of challenging. It's sort of the next summit I'm trying to reach.
Very cool. Okay, your 2-ingredient desert island cocktail.
Oof, desert island.
Like the desert island is magically stocked with these 2 ingredients.
Well, so going back to my love for absinthe, I would love to always have access to a cocktail that's in the book that I called the Absinthe Coconut Frappe. Here in New York, there's a wonderful bar called Maison Premier, which they one of the few places where you can really kind of geek out on absinthe. They sort of serve it in the traditional way. They also use it in a lot of cocktails. They serve this really amazing drink called the Absinthe Colada there, just sort of like under the radar, one of the best drinks in the city, in my opinion. So the Absinthe Coconut Frappe is a kind of riff on that drink that is absinthe mixed with like a sweetened kind of coconut cream. So it has a little bit of like a beachy vibe, which I think would be great on a desert island and would, give me access to one of my favorite spirits. So that's probably what I would choose. And it's served over like crushed ice. So it's like very chilled, bracing,
Yum.
Very, very satisfying in that way.
I'll have to go get the original one at Maison Premiere. I love that bar.
Yes, it's excellent.
Okay, your least favorite cocktail ingredient?
Probably aquavit. Have you had this before? It's like
Kind of like licorice-y,
Scandinavian.
right?
Yeah, it's often made with like caraway, I believe is like the main ingredient. Never really was able to kind of get into that. Yeah.
Okay, a cocktail that you think should be more popular or have like mainstream appeal?
I don't know. That's a good question. I feel
like you're going to say something with absinthe.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of beautiful kind of more European style aperitifs that I think that include absinthe or pastis, which is another anise-based liqueur that comes from France. There's a drink in the book called the Maresque, which uses pastis and orgeat, which is a like almond syrup. And I think that drink should be more popular outside of, Marseille, which is where it's probably most famous.
Okay, your favorite cocktail city in the world?
Probably Chicago. I think that city is just a wonderful. The cocktail community there is truly that. I mean, I think the bartenders and professionals that work in hospitality there are second to none, and were so welcoming to me as a guest journalist, what have you, as I was coming up, and I think it's still that way today. So I love having cocktails in Chicago.
Nice. Me too. Your favorite cocktail bar in the world?
Well, sticking on the tack of Chicago, I'd probably say Violet Hour, which I mentioned before. It's very near and dear to my heart. And I think I'd always, be happy if I was there having a drink.
Okay. And finally, one of your favorite places for cocktails in New York?
Let's see. I would say Bar Goto, which is kind of a Japanese cocktail bar. They have two locations. The one in Brooklyn, Bar Goto Niban, is really great. It's a beautiful space. It's usually pretty quiet, so you can kind of go there with a friend and grab a seat at the bar. They have a beautiful martini, the Sakura Martini, which is made with sake. It's a exquisite drink. Just thinking about it right now, I want to have one.
The food is really good at Bargoto also.
Yes.
They do like miso wings and the kombu celery. Yes. I actually don't go to the Brooklyn location that often, and the Manhattan one is always so busy. So this is a good reminder.
Yes. Go there's a subway stop right outside. You pop out, you go right in. If you go on the early side, it's pretty quiet, and it's just yes, the food and the drinks, it just all comes together so nicely there.
Well, Roger, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming on the show. I can't wait to go make some 2-ingredient cocktails.
Thank you so much.
This is Taste is hosted and produced by Eliza Barbanel and me, Matt Rodbar. The show is edited by lead producer Clayton Gumbert and supervised by Pat Stango, Director of Media Production and Development at Penguin Random House. Thanks to Shalia Harris and the production team at Penguin Random House. Theme music by Steve Rydell. Logo and guest illustrations by Ellie Skurzat. Visit Taste online at tastecooking.com and make sure to subscribe to our newsletter to keep updated on all cool things in the world of taste.